The grand audience chamber of the Xendari royal palace was a sight to behold, its soaring ceilings and gleaming crystalline walls radiating an aura of opulence and power. Yet, as Princess Jalora stood before her imperious parents, the king and queen of the Xendari Empire, she couldn't help but feel a sense of unease and resentment. "You summon me from my studies, demanding that I undertake this tedious diplomatic mission to the human homeworld," Jalora said, her voice dripping with disdain. "Surely there are more suitable candidates for such a task." The king's eyes narrowed, his regal features etched with a disapproving frown. "You are the heir to the Xendari throne, Jalora. It is your duty to represent our mighty civilization and secure the alliance with these humans." He spat the word humans as if it were a vile curse. The queen, her elegant features softened by a thin veneer of patience, interjected, "My dear daughter, you must understand the importance of this mission. The humans possess resources and technology that could greatly benefit our empire. Your success in this endeavor will solidify your claim to the throne." Jalora suppressed a sigh of frustration. She had long grown weary of her parents' constant reminders of her royal obligations and the endless political machinations that plagued the Xendari court. While she recognized the strategic value of the alliance with the humans, the very thought of interacting with such a primitive species filled her with a sense of revulsion. "I understand the significance of this mission, mother, father," Jalora replied, her tone carefully measured. "However, I have but one condition before I agree to undertake this task." The king and queen exchanged a puzzled glance, unaccustomed to their daughter's boldness. "And what, pray tell, is this condition?" the king asked, his voice laced with a hint of irritation. Jalora straightened her posture, her chin held high. "I insist on traveling to the human homeworld aboard one of their own spacecraft." The reaction was instantaneous. The assembled Xendari nobles and advisors erupted into a cacophony of gasps and murmurs, their faces twisted in a mixture of horror and disbelief. The king rose from his throne, his fist slamming against the ornate armrest. "Absolutely unacceptable," he bellowed, the booming resonance of his voice silencing the commotion. "Our daughter, the heir to the Xendari throne, traveling aboard a primitive human vessel. The very thought is an insult to our glorious civilization." The queen raised a delicate hand, silencing her husband with a subtle gesture. She fixed Jalora with a penetrating gaze, her eyes narrowing in contemplation. "My dear, you must understand the gravity of your request. The Xendari have never deigned to set foot on a human-made spacecraft. Such an act would be seen as a sign of weakness, an admission that we require their assistance." Jalora held her ground, unwavering in the face of her parents' indignation. "Then let it be seen as a sign of our willingness to engage with the humans on their own terms," she countered, her voice unwavering. "If we are to secure this alliance, we must demonstrate our respect for their technological capabilities." The king and queen exchanged a long, tense look, their expressions unreadable. Jalora could feel the weight of their silence bearing down upon her, but she refused to back down. This was her chance to prove her worth, to show that she was more than just a pawn in the Xendari's political machinations. Finally, the queen spoke, her tone laced with a hint of resignation. "Very well, Jalora. If this is your condition, then so be it. You will travel to the human homeworld aboard one of their own vessels." Jalora allowed herself a small, triumphant smile. "Then I shall make the necessary preparations immediately." As she turned to leave the audience chamber, the princess could feel the burning stares of the Xendari nobles upon her back, their disdain and disapproval palpable in the air. But Jalora paid them no heed. She was determined to prove her worth, even if it meant challenging the very traditions of her own civilization. The bustling human spaceport was a cacophony of activity, with various alien species mingling alongside the native human population. Amidst the organized chaos, the Xendari royal guards escorted Princess Jalora, her regal bearing and ornate attire drawing the curious gazes of the bystanders. As they approached the towering human spacecraft, Jalora couldn't help but feel a twinge of apprehension. The sleek, angular design of the vessel was unlike anything she had seen in the Xendari fleet, and the sight of the human crew members scurrying about with practiced efficiency only added to her sense of unease. When the Xendari entourage was finally granted access to the spacecraft, Shalora was met with a mix of wary caution and barely concealed excitement from the human crew. Their features, while undoubtedly more primitive than the Xendari, were expressive and vibrant, a far cry from the stoic elegance of her own people. "Welcome aboard the UNSS Endeavour, Your Highness," a young human male, his uniform bearing the insignia of a senior officer, greeted her with a slight bow. "I am Captain Liam Westbrook, and I and my crew are honored to escort you to the human homeworld." Chalora eyed the captain with a cool, detached gaze, her expression betraying none of the curiosity that stirred within her. "I trust your vessel is capable of making the journey in a timely and efficient manner, Captain Westbrook," she said, her tone laced with a hint of condescension. The captain's lips curled into a polite smile, though Chalora could see the subtle tension in his stance. "I can assure you, Your Highness, that the Endeavour is more than capable of transporting you and your entourage safely and swiftly. Our engineers have ensured that every system is operating at peak efficiency." Chalora nodded, her gaze sweeping over the bustling crew members as they moved about the ship with practiced precision. "We shall see," she murmured, her own curiosity piqued despite her best efforts to maintain an air of indifference. As the Xendari guards ushered her deeper into the vessel, Chalora couldn't help but notice the subtle differences between the human and Xendari technology. The smooth, seamless interfaces of the ship's control panels, the efficient flow of information displayed on the various screens, and the overall sense of harmony between the crew and their surroundings. All of it was a far cry from the ornate, often overly complex systems favored by the Xendari. Chalora's mind whirred with questions, each one vying for her attention. How did these humans manage to achieve such technological prowess? What was the secret to their apparent efficiency and resourcefulness? The princess found herself surprisingly eager to unravel the mysteries of the human vessel, her initial disdain slowly giving way to a growing sense of intrigue. As the Endeavour's engines roared to life and the spacecraft began its ascent, Chalora felt a slight flutter of anticipation. For the first time in her life, she was embarking on a journey beyond the familiar confines of the Xendari homeworld, and the prospect of encountering a new, vastly different civilization filled her with a mixture of trepidation and excitement. Chalora knew that this mission would be unlike anything she had experienced before, and she was determined to make the most of it. Whatever challenges or surprises awaited her on the human homeworld, she was ready to face them head-on, her sharp intellect and unwavering determination her greatest assets. As the Endeavour broke through the atmosphere and the endless expanse of space opened up before her, Chalora felt a surge of determination coursing through her veins. This was her chance to prove her worth, not just to her parents and the Xendari court, but to herself, and she was more than ready to seize the opportunity. As the powerful engines of the UNSS Endeavour propelled the spacecraft through the void of space, an undercurrent of tension and unease hung heavy in the air. The Xendari royal guards, their expressions stoic and unyielding, kept a watchful eye on the bustling human crew, their hands never straying far from the holstered energy weapons at their sides. In contrast, Princess Chalora found herself increasingly captivated by the seamless efficiency of the vessel's operations. She observed the human crew with a mixture of curiosity and barely concealed fascination, her sharp eyes taking in every detail of their interactions and the intricate systems that kept the Endeavour running smoothly. As she made her way through the ship's sleek, minimalist corridors, Chalora couldn't help but compare the human technology to the ornate, often overcomplicated designs favored by the Xendari. Where the Xendari prized aesthetics and ostentatious displays of power, the humans seemed to prioritize functionality and practical innovation. Pausing before a control panel, Chalora studied the intuitive interface, her fingers tracing the smooth, responsive surfaces. "Fascinating," she murmured, unaware that she had spoken aloud. A young human crew member, her eyes widening with a mix of surprise and trepidation, approached the princess cautiously. "May I assist you, Your Highness?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Chalora turned to face the human, her expression coolly appraising. "I was merely observing the design of your control systems. They seem remarkably efficient for a primitive species." The crew member visibly tensed at the princess's words, but to her credit, she did not back down. "We may be a primitive species in your eyes, Your Highness, but our technology is the result of countless hours of research, innovation, and problem-solving. I assure you, it is anything but primitive." Chalora arched a delicate eyebrow, intrigued by the human's unexpected boldness. "Then enlighten me, if you will. What is the driving force behind your technological advancement?" The crew member paused, her brow furrowing as she considered the question. "It is a combination of many factors, Your Highness," she began, her tone cautious yet confident. "Our innate curiosity, our desire to explore the unknown, our willingness to take risks and challenge the status quo. These are the qualities that have propelled us forward, time and time again." Chalora listened intently, her previous disdain for the human slowly giving way to a growing sense of respect. "And yet your species is still considered inferior by many in the galactic community," she pointed out, her voice tinged with a hint of challenge. "Perhaps," the crew member conceded, "but we do not measure our worth by the standards of others. We forge our own path, driven by an unquenchable thirst for knowledge and a steadfast determination to overcome any obstacle that stands in our way." Chalora felt a faint stirring of admiration at the human's words, a realization that this primitive species possessed a resilience and resolute spirit that she had not anticipated. Glancing around the bustling control room, she couldn't help but wonder if the Xendari had truly underestimated the capabilities of humankind. As the Endeavor continued its journey through the vastness of space, Chalora found herself increasingly drawn to the human crew, their infectious enthusiasm and innovative spirit, a stark contrast to the rigid formality and stagnation of the Xendari court. For the first time, she began to entertain the notion that perhaps her parents and her people were wrong in their dismissal of the humans. With a newfound sense of curiosity and an open mind, Chalora made her way deeper into the heart of the Endeavor, determined to uncover the full extent of human ingenuity and technological prowess. As the UNSS Endeavor approached the bustling human capital, Princess Chalora gazed out the observation deck, her eyes narrowing with a mixture of disdain and curiosity. The grand spires and gleaming structures that dotted the cityscape were a far cry from the towering crystalline architecture of the Xendari homeworld. Yet there was an undeniable sense of vitality and purpose that permeated the human metropolis. Turning to one of the human crew members, Chalora's regal features settled into a frown. "I must say, your capital does not possess the same grandeur and opulence as the seat of the Xendari Empire. Surely your leaders do not expect me to be impressed by such modest displays of wealth and power." The crew member, a seasoned officer named Commander Samantha Blackwood, met the princess's gaze evenly. "With respect, Your Highness, the human capital is not focused on ostentatious displays of power, but rather on the well-being and advancement of our people. We believe that true strength lies not in the ornate trappings of royalty, but in the innovative spirit and determination of our citizens." Chalora arched a delicate eyebrow, her lips curling into a slight smirk. "How quaint! And yet, I find myself strangely intrigued by your rather unconventional approach to governance. Perhaps there is more to your species than meets the eye." Commander Blackwood nodded, a faint smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. "I'm glad to hear that, Your Highness. If you are willing, I would be honored to introduce you to some of our most esteemed leaders and innovators. They would no doubt be eager to showcase the depth and breadth of human accomplishments." Chalora considered the offer, her mind racing with the implications, the prospect of engaging directly with the human ruling class, rather than dealing with the tedious bureaucracy and rigid protocols of the Xendari court, was a tempting one. Perhaps this unconventional approach could yield unexpected dividends. "Very well, Commander," Jalora replied, her regal bearing betraying none of the growing sense of anticipation within her. "I shall accept your invitation and meet with your esteemed leaders." As the Endeavour touched down at the spaceport, Jalora's Xendari entourage disembarked with a sense of reluctance and unease. The human guards and officials who greeted them, however, were surprisingly cordial and efficient, their interactions marked by a level of professionalism that Jalora found herself begrudgingly respecting. Flanked by Commander Blackwood and a contingent of human security personnel, Jalora made her way through the bustling spaceport, her keen eyes taking in every detail of her surroundings. The sheer scale and complexity of the human infrastructure, coupled with the evident industriousness of the populace, was a stark contrast to the more insular and hierarchical society of the Xendari. Jalora couldn't help but feel a twinge of curiosity, and perhaps even a hint of admiration, for this civilization that had managed to thrive and expand without the rigid structures and elaborate displays of power that defined her own people. As she approached the towering government buildings that housed the human leadership, Jalora steeled herself for the negotiations to come. She knew that her parents and the Xendari court would be watching her every move, scrutinizing her every word and action. But in that moment, Jalora felt a surge of confidence, a belief that she was about to encounter a new and fascinating world, one that just might hold the key to her own personal growth and the future of the Xendari Empire. The chamber where the negotiations were to take place was a study in contrasts. On one side stood the Xendari diplomatic envoy, their regal robes and ornate headpieces a stark reminder of the pomp and circumstance that defined the Xendari Empire. On the other, the human leadership, clad in simple yet functional attire, radiated an air of quiet confidence and pragmatism. As Princess Jalora stepped into the room, flanked by the human security detail, she could feel the weight of the Xendari nobles' stares upon her. Their displeasure at her unorthodox choice of transportation and her unconventional approach was palpable, but Jalora refused to be cowed. Squaring her shoulders, the princess addressed the human leaders, her voice clear and unwavering. "Esteemed members of the human government, I am Princess Jalora of the Xendari Empire. I trust that my arrival aboard one of your own vessels has not caused too much consternation among my people." The human delegation, led by a seasoned statesman named Chancellor Evelyn Hartman, responded with a measured nod. "Welcome, Princess Jalora. We are honored by your presence and appreciate your willingness to engage with us directly. Please, let us begin the negotiations." Jalora allowed a faint smile to grace her lips. "Very well, Chancellor. I believe we have much to discuss regarding the future of the alliance between our two civilizations." What followed was a tense and high-stakes exchange, with the Xendari representatives relentlessly pressing their demands for increased resource extraction rights, greater political influence, and the establishment of permanent Xendari outposts within human-controlled territory. Jalora, however, remained resolute, her sharp intellect and unwavering determination serving as a formidable counterpoint to the Xendari's posturing and ultimatums. She argued passionately about the merits of human technology and the resilience of the human spirit, drawing upon her newfound respect for the ingenuity and problem-solving prowess she had witnessed aboard the UNSS Endeavour. "Your Xendari Highness," Chancellor Hartman interjected, her brow furrowed in a mix of frustration and curiosity, "you seem to have developed a rather unique perspective on our species. Might I ask what has inspired this change of heart?" Jalora's gaze flickered briefly to the Xendari delegation, their faces etched with a mixture of disapproval and bewilderment. "I have come to realize," she began, her tone measured and deliberate, "that the Xendari have long underestimated the capabilities of humanity. Your people possess a resilience, an innovative spirit, and a determination to overcome adversity that is quite remarkable, to say the least." The Xendari envoy erupted in a chorus of outraged protests, but Jalora raised a hand, silencing them with a regal gesture. I have seen the efficiency and ingenuity of your human-made spacecraft, the Endeavour. I have witnessed the seamless coordination and problem-solving abilities of your crew, and I cannot help but wonder. Perhaps the Xandari Empire has much to learn from your civilization. Chancellor Hartman's eyes widened, her lips curling into a cautious smile. We are certainly intrigued by your perspective, Your Highness, and we would be more than willing to explore the possibilities of a deeper, more equitable alliance between our peoples. Shalora's gaze hardened as she turned to face the Xandari delegation, their faces a study in barely concealed fury. However, she continued, her voice laced with a hint of challenge, I will not accept the terms you have proposed. The Xandari Empire must be willing to compromise, to acknowledge the strengths and contributions of humanity, if this alliance is to succeed. As the Xandari representatives erupted into a cacophony of outraged protests, Shalora stood her ground, her confidence bolstered by the quiet support of the human leaders. She knew that she was treading a delicate path, but she was determined to forge a new future, one that would not only benefit the Xandari Empire, but also solidify her own position as a visionary and innovative leader. The Xandari diplomatic envoy erupted into a cacophony of furious protests, their outraged cries echoing through the negotiation chamber. Princess Jalora stood her ground, her regal bearing betraying none of the tension that coiled within her. You would dare to defy the demands of the Xandari Empire? The lead envoy, a seasoned diplomat named Vorlak, snarled, his piercing gaze fixed on the princess. This is an unacceptable breach of protocol, a direct insult to our civilization. Shalora raised a hand, silencing the Xandari delegation with a subtle gesture. I am well aware of the gravity of my actions, Envoy Vorlak, she replied, her voice cool and measured. However, I have come to the realization that the Xandari Empire can no longer afford to dismiss the contributions and capabilities of the human civilization. Chancellor Hartman, her expression a carefully crafted mask of diplomacy, interjected, Princess Jalora raises a valid point. The human people have much to offer in the way of technological innovation and problem-solving abilities. Surely, a more equitable alliance could be mutually beneficial for both our civilizations. Vorlak's eyes narrowed to slits, his lips twisting into a contemptuous sneer. Equitable alliance. The Xandari have graciously allowed your kind to exist within our sphere of influence. Now you dare to demand concessions from us. Chalora stepped forward, her regal posture unwavering. That is precisely the attitude that has hampered the progress of our alliance. Envoy Vorlak. The humans are not mere vassals to be exploited, but a civilization worthy of respect and cooperation. The Xandari diplomat's face contorted with rage, his fists clenching at his sides. Then perhaps it is time for the Xandari Empire to withdraw from this alliance altogether. We have no need for your primitive technology or your so-called innovative spirit. The room fell silent, the tension thick enough to cut with a blade. Jalora felt the weight of the Xandari nobles' stares upon her, their disapproval and disappointment palpable. But in that moment, she knew that she had to stand firm, to challenge the very foundations of the Xandari's arrogance and complacency. Clearing her throat, Jalora addressed the Xandari delegation with an unwavering gaze. If that is the path you choose, Envoy Vorlak, then I propose a contest, a competition that will determine the future of our alliance. The Xandari diplomat's brow furrowed in confusion, his initial outrage momentarily tempered by Jalora's unexpected proposal. A contest, he echoed, his voice laced with a hint of skepticism. Jalora nodded, her lips curving into a subtle smile. Yes, a contest, a showcase of technological prowess and innovative problem-solving, a test that will unequivocally demonstrate the capabilities of both our civilizations. Chancellor Hartman stepped forward, her expression one of cautious optimism. Princess Jalora, we are intrigued by your proposal. What precisely did you have in mind? Jalora's gaze swept across the room, her eyes glinting with a newfound determination. I propose a series of challenges, each designed to push the boundaries of our respective technological and intellectual abilities. The victor will determine the terms of the renewed alliance between the Xendari Empire and the human civilization. The Xendari delegation erupted into a chorus of murmurs and hushed whispers, their faces a study in uncertainty and unease. Jalora, however, remained steadfast, her confidence bolstered by the quiet support of the human leaders. As the negotiations reached a tense impasse, the stage was set for a high-stakes showdown that would not only shape the future of the alliance, but also redefine the very perception of the Xendari civilization, and Jalora's own role within it. The Xendari delegation, their faces etched with a mixture of outrage and bewilderment, exchanged a series of tense, hushed whispers as Princess Jalora's proposal hung in the air. Chancellor Hartman, her expression measured and diplomatic, waited patiently for the Xendari's response. Finally, Envoy Vorlak stepped forward, his posture rigid and his voice dripping with disdain. "This contest you propose, Princess Jalora, is an outrageous breach of protocol. The Xendari Empire does not engage in such frivolous displays of technological prowess." Jalora raised a hand, silencing the Xendari diplomat with a regal gesture. "On the contrary, Envoy Vorlak, this is a matter of the utmost importance. The future of our alliance rests upon the outcome of this competition. Surely, the Xendari Empire is confident in its technological superiority." Vorlak's eyes narrowed to slits, his jaw clenching with barely contained fury. "Of course we are confident, Princess, but to subject ourselves to such a display in front of these humans is unacceptable." Chancellor Hartman cleared her throat, her voice calm and measured. "Envoy Vorlak, I must respectfully disagree. Princess Jalora has proposed a unique opportunity for our civilizations to showcase their respective strengths and perhaps even learn from one another in the process." Jalora nodded, her gaze unwavering as she met Vorlak's furious stare. "The Chancellor speaks truly, Envoy. This is not merely a display of technological prowess, but a chance to forge a new, more equitable alliance, one that acknowledges the contributions and capabilities of both our peoples." The Xendari diplomat's features twisted with a mixture of frustration and reluctant consideration. Jalora could see the gears turning in his mind, the weight of the decision clearly weighing heavily upon him. After a tense moment of silence, Vorlak let out a resigned sigh. "Very well, Princess Jalora. The Xendari Empire will participate in this contest of yours." He paused, his lips curling into a sardonic smile. "However, I warn you, the humans will be thoroughly humbled by the might of Xendari technology." Jalora allowed a faint smile to grace her lips. "We shall see, Envoy Vorlak. I look forward to witnessing the full extent of Xendari ingenuity." As the Xendari delegation departed the negotiation chamber, Jalora turned to Chancellor Hartman, her eyes gleaming with a newfound determination. "I must return to the UNSS Endeavour immediately. There are preparations to be made, and I will need the full cooperation of your crew." The Chancellor nodded, a hint of pride shining in her gaze. "You have our full support, Princess Jalora. The human people are eager to showcase the depth of our technological capabilities, and we welcome the opportunity to collaborate with you on this endeavor." Jalora inclined her head, a silent acknowledgement of the Chancellor's words. As she made her way back to the Endeavour, the princess couldn't help but feel a surge of anticipation. This contest would be the ultimate test, not just for the Xendari Empire, but for her own personal growth and leadership. With a resolute step, Jalora boarded the human spacecraft, her mind already racing with the possibilities that lay ahead. The stage was set for a showdown that would redefine the very nature of the Xendari human alliance, and Jalora was determined to emerge victorious. The UNSS Endeavour thrummed with a palpable sense of energy and anticipation as Princess Jalora, flanked by the human crew, pored over the details of the upcoming contest. The Xendari delegation, their expressions a mix of reluctant curiosity and barely concealed disdain, had been invited to observe the preparations, a gesture that Jalora knew would further antagonize the already tense situation. "Your Highness," Commander Blackwood said, her voice tinged with a hint of excitement, Our engineers have been working around the clock to ensure that the Endeavour is operating at peak efficiency. We've implemented several innovative modifications to our systems that we believe will give us a distinct advantage in the competition. Chalora nodded, her keen gaze sweeping over the intricate schematics and data displays that covered the ship's control panels. Impressive, Commander. The human ingenuity on display is truly remarkable. Vorlak, the Tsenderi diplomatic envoy, cleared his throat, his expression one of barely concealed disdain. Forgive me, Princess Chalora, but I fail to see how these modifications can possibly compete with the might of Tsenderi technology. Our engineers have spent centuries perfecting the systems that power our civilization. Chalora turned to face the Tsenderi diplomat, her regal bearing betraying none of the underlying tension. Ah, but you see, Envoy Vorlak, the humans do not measure their worth by the standards of others. They are driven by an unquenchable thirst for knowledge and a steadfast determination to overcome any obstacle in their path. Commander Blackwood stepped forward, her eyes gleaming with a mix of confidence and determination. Princess Chalora speaks the truth, Envoy Vorlak. We may not have the centuries of experience that the Tsenderi possess, but we make up for it with our innovative spirit and our willingness to take risks. Vorlak's lips curled into a sneer, his gaze sweeping over the bustling human crew with undisguised contempt. Risks, you say? Typical of your kind to rely on such reckless tactics. The Tsenderi Empire values precision and control above all else. Chalora raised a hand, silencing the Tsenderi diplomat with a subtle gesture. And therein lies the difference, Envoy Vorlak. The humans embrace change, they welcome the unknown, and they are not afraid to push the boundaries of what is possible. The princess turned to the human crew, her expression softening ever so slightly. I have seen the true depths of your capabilities, and I have no doubt that you will rise to the occasion. Together, we will show the Tsenderi Empire the true meaning of innovation and determination. The human crew erupted into a chorus of cheers and applause, their enthusiasm palpable. Vorlak and the Tsenderi delegation, on the other hand, remained stoic and unyielding, their disapproval evident in the tense set of their shoulders. As the final preparations for the contest unfolded, Chalora found herself caught in a whirlwind of anticipation and trepidation. She knew that the outcome of this challenge would not only determine the future of the Tsenderi human alliance, but also her own standing within the Tsenderi Empire. With a steadfast resolve, the princess joined the human crew in their final efforts, her sharp mind and unwavering determination fueling their every move. The stage was set for a showdown that would redefine the very nature of the two civilizations, and Chalora was determined to emerge victorious, not just for the sake of the alliance, but for the sake of her own personal growth and the future of the Tsenderi Empire.